Hello everyone. Today I will discuss the story of Meleager and Atalanta, and it is a Greek mythology. So, the most commonly title of this story is it's the story of Meleager and Atlanta, the hunt and the wild boar, and some would call this story as the offering of the boar said from the story of Meleager and Atalanta. So, in the land of Mount Etna, there was a dangerous wild boar that was big enough to harvest for a full year, and this boar was proven to be a beast by the whole land. So, many men were asked to go on a hunt for this wild beast. And later on in this story, I will tell you the story of the boar. But before that, I will give an each description of the main characters of the story. So first, let's have Atalanta. So, this is Atalanta, and Atalanta's story starts off as a kind of a bummer. So, when she's born, her dead king Iasus of Arcadia, is ticked that she isn't a boy. So the dude does what any unreasonable dad would do. He abandons his infant daughter in the woods. See, I told you it's a kind of bummer that a dad would do. So don't get too stressed out for Atalanta because lucky for her, the wilderness of Arcadia is also the home of a she bear with extreme maternal instincts. Instead of chowing down a little baby Atalanta, when she finds her, the she bear lets the human girl suckle. So I mean, Atalanta suck her his bear milk. She's her bear milk, I mean. So later on, some friendly hunters find Atalanta and raise her to be an awesome huntress. And this kind of crazy because usually women don't hunt at all. Young Atalanta becomes the follower of Artemis, the virgin goddess of the hunt, and the young huntress fights pretty hard to protect her virginity. So when two centaurs bust into a grove and try to have their horsey way with her, she kills them both with her arrows. Girl power is strong with this one. So later on, Atalanta is the only woman to be drafted by Jason to join his crew of Argonauts on the quest for the Golden Fleece. This is a really big honor because the crew includes all the who's who and big cheeses of Greek heroes at that time. In some versions, the Argonauts won't let a girl join because on that time, I think they don't consider a girl during their hunts because they believe only men can do such things. So while kicking it as an Argonaut, Atalanta wows her crew members by defeating Peleus in a wrestling match at the funeral games of King Peleus. A little while later, Atalanta gets drafted by a dude named Meleager, who has a thing for Atalanta. So to help hunt a gigantic boar that's wreaking havoc in Caledonia. So once again, Atalanta is the only woman asked to go to on the hunt, and once again she shows how awesome she is. All the dudes on the hunt are stunned and amazed when Atalanta draws first blood by stabbing the boar with her spear. So in this part, I will just stop because in the later part of the story, it is already the story of both Atalanta and Meleager. So next I will introduce Meleager. So King Oenius or Onus or I don't know of Caledon married Althea, but she lay with the god Ares and gave birth to Meleager. So shortly after the child was born, the fates visited Althea, warning her that if a certain log on the fire was burnt, Meleager would die. So that was the fates telling the mom of Meleager how Meleager would die later on in his life. So Althea hurried to rescue the log and stored it safely away. In time, Meleager became an unbeatable warrior and an expert with the javelin. So King Oeneus neglected to honor Artemis one summer, as he was sacrificing the first fruits of his harvest to the Olympians. To avenge herself, Artemis sent a gigantic boar to ravage Calydon. So the animal succeeded in destroying the crops and killing Oeneus' cattle and men. To rid himself of the boar, Oeneus sent out word that he needed hunters to slay the beast, and that the one who triumphed would be rewarded with its tusk and pelt. Heroes showed up from the many parts of Greece. Among them is Jason, Cisseus, Nestor, Castor, and Polyeucus. Yet one who turned up was a woman, and that was Atalanta, who was as good at tracking and killing game as any man in the party. Artemis was her protectress, and the goddess had sent the young huntress as a source of contention. So, although he had a wife, Meleager fell passionately in love with her. Atalanta was a woman after his own heart. Some of the hunters refused to join in the hunt because of her presence, but Meleager managed to persuade them to stay. The group flushed the boar from its lair. Two men were killed in the onrush of the beast, and another died from a javelin that missed its mark. Atalanta struck the boar with an arrow, but Meleager finally killed it with two javelins. In a gesture of gallantry, Meleager awarded the pelt and tusk to Atalanta, who gladly accepted them. But however, two of Meleager's uncles objected this disgraceful act, since Atalanta had not killed the boar and because she was only a woman. In a rage, Meleager killed the two uncles, but two other uncles raised a fighting force against Meleager, who killed them too. Meleager's mother Althea became infuriated at the death of her brothers, all because of a coarse, mannish girl. She took the log she had rescued from the fire years before and proceeded to burn it. Meleager felt himself devoured from within and died in agony. So, as what as the fate said earlier in Meleager's life to his mother is what Meleager's mother did for his own death. So, having obtained the trophies of the hunt, Atalanta went to her father's home to be reconciled to him, having proved herself the equal of men. Her father insisted that she marry, but Atalanta set the conditions. She would only marry a man who could beat her in a foot race. Since she was swifter than any young man, she could easily preserve her virginity. In addition, however, she would kill anyone who failed to beat her. A number of suitors died at her hands, but one Milanion requested help from Aphrodite, who gave him three golden apples and told him to roll each one in Atalanta's path as she gained on him. Aphrodite, after all, had no use for a woman who scorned to love. Atalanta looked stunning in her nudity, for in Greece races were run without clothes. Milanion, each time he saw Atalanta passing him, threw a golden apple in her way. She stopped to pick each one up, and in this manner Milanion won the race and gained her for his wife. Later, Milanion persuaded her to make love in the place sacred to Zeus, and for this impiety, Zeus changed the pair into lions, because the gods, and especially Zeus, felt disrespected by what they have done into his temple. So, one thing in this story is greed. Atalanta got foiled by her own greed, and if she would have not been so greedy and have to go and pick up all three of the golden apples, she wouldn't have lost. The golden apples are symbols for things that can distract us from our real goal in life. I believe that the moral story also was that you will pay for your actions. Meleager's uncles disrespected his decisions, so Meleager killed them. Meleager's consequence for murdering his uncles was his death. Since his mother killed him, also a guilt overcame her and it led to her death. You can apply this to life by thinking our decisions thoroughly before you act to them. And all mistakes are unjustifiable if you commit mistakes, especially killing people. It's very a grave. It's really a grave mistake to do. So the legend of Meleager shows heroes who become soft-headed over a woman and bring destruction upon himself because of it. Meleager is a tough, skilled warrior, and although he is married, he falls passionately in love with the tomboyish Atalanta, killing his uncles because of her and thereby provoking his own death. The Greeks regarded promiscuity in their heroes as permissible, but a headlong infatuation with one woman was dangerous, for it destroyed a man's prudence, and love was a form of intoxication that could ruin a hero. And it is very relevant in today's some heroic movies that we can see. So a culture that stresses heroic values usually relegates women to an inferior position. So in contrast to him, there are such ruthless, mannish heroines like as Atalanta, who seem to devour the men that lay claim to them. The soft men and the hard women were generally unpleasant realities to the Greeks, the reverse image of their usual standards for the sexes. So the basic substance of the heroic legends is roughly the same material that our daily tabloids exploit: sex, violence, and wonders. Yet, whereas these elements are presented randomly and without form in the tabloids, and they have been given shape and meaning in the heroic legends. Frequently, the hero is the man blessed by the gods to rid the world of some evil. He performs his feats without hesitation, and if he succumbs in the end of his fame, it outlives him. So sex and violence and wonders are his natural means of expression. So that is how I would interpret a story. So thank you for listening.